Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, it's a bit of a blustery day out here, but we're looking at one of my favorite fat tire bikes. This is the RadRover. This thing started it all. I'm here with the co-founder and CEO, Mike Radbow. How's it going?
Yeah, welcome, Court.
I'm happy to be here, man. And look, we're right downtown by the city. We've been touring around all day. Really enjoying those fenders, and thank you, because we've got one sort of like naked bike over here and then one with accessories. I turned the lights on earlier because I'm a big safety nut, and one of the things they've updated for 2019 is it's integrated, so you don't have to have those disposable batteries. It's going to run off that main 48 volt, 14 amp hour rechargeable battery. I love that. And then it's got this flashing mode, so there's a little button on the bottom. You can go solid, you can go flashing, and when you pull the brake levers now, they've always had motor inhibitors, but now they have like a bright mode on that rear light. You might notice that the tires, they've been upgraded. They've got this reflective sidewall stripe. They've got K-shield puncture protection, but otherwise it's the same sort of thing. These are the 26-inch by 4-inch fat tire. Really comfortable, very stable, and they're also going to give you an option to like maybe ride on loamy, softer terrain or sand, maybe a little bit of snow if you really drop the tire pressure. That's something that's always been appealing, and really the primary reason for having fat tires. Until recently, they become more mainstream, and I think people just appreciate how comfortable they can be, that stability that we talked about. Rad does a really good job with these like riser bars, and they make it more comfortable than a lot of the other fat tire bikes I'd seen in the past. Even this saddle, you know, Velo Plush, it kind of seems like a value part, but it's actually very comfortable. I'm not just saying that. I really like that saddle. They do sell a suspension seat post upgrade, and then the fork is pretty nice here. 32 millimeter stanchion, so it's a little bit thicker. It's got lockout, it's got preload adjust. I really appreciate that. And then these are mechanical, not hydraulic, but that means they're going to be a little bit easier to adjust. Disc brakes with large 180 millimeter rotors. So you're getting plenty of stopping power on this. They're going to stay cleaner than like rim brakes. I really haven't seen too many rim brakes on mountain bikes or fat bikes, so I like that. We've got the headlight built in, same as last year. It does a great job. It's a little bit of a rise here, and it does mount optionally on like a front rack, which they sell. And that front rack, it's frame mounted, so it's not going to tip when you steer the bike. It's going to give you a little bit more carrying capacity, and they have all these cool bags and stuff that also have reflective like fabric built in. So coming back to that safety, I like the decals. They've really improved that. The font looks a little bit nicer here. It comes in white or black, and both of them have this like sloped top tube, so the standover height's relatively low. Things like this. Look, there's a bigger like seat clamp, and that means you're not going to have to hurt your fingers. Like, I'm always adjusting these when I do reviews. That's a tiny detail, but one they did a really good job on. I think they updated the discs, the actual disc brake disc rotor, so it doesn't make as much noise, and it gives you a little bit better stopping power. They move the caliper from here down to here, and that makes it a little bit easier if you're mounting a rack and stuff. The cable doesn't have to go as far. It's not going to get in the way as much. Plenty of bosses for adding the fenders and stuff, which we're going to see in a minute. Kickstand, it's mounted on the inside. Plenty of room so you can pedal backwards. You're not going to get any heel strikes. They've really thought this thing through. And you might notice that extra black controller box, which is kind of ugly in my opinion, but by separating it from the battery, you're able to make the batteries a little bit cheaper, $550 to replace that. Again, high capacity, 48 volt, 14 amp hour. It's like 672 watt hours. You can go pretty far. Now charger, it's like 1.1 pounds, really compact, lightweight, 2 amp, and I've talked to them about that. They say, well, you charge it a little bit slower, it's not as hard on the cells. These are 35E Samsung cells. They're known for being like lightweight, long lasting. They do a good job. But it's really great that you can take that battery off of the bike. You can store it inside if it's extremely cold or hot out. Otherwise, that kind of degrades the cells. And it's mounted with 3 bolts, so it's actually fairly sturdy. It's an external battery, but it's compatible between all the different bikes. So you'll notice like on the Rad Mini or the Rad Wagon, same battery pack, and that's one of the ways they keep the cost down. These guys have a comprehensive year-long warranty, some of the best support I've seen from like a value brand. And they're really, in my opinion, they're coming out of the value in terms of componentry and stuff. This is all high-end stuff, and we can see that continued here. We've got 12 magnet cadence sensor up front. We've got an alloy guide, so that's going to keep the chain from bouncing off. It's going to protect that chain ring. Nice Welgo pedals. I like these a lot. Slap guard. They've even got a derailleur. This is like a guard, so it's going to protect the Acera. So this is several steps up. derailleur. It's going to protect that power cable. And then look at that nice shiny, this is actually a freewheel, but I'm always calling these a cassette because it's a bunch of sprockets. 11 to 34 tooth. So it's a big, extra big gear for climbing, and then 11 so you can go above 20 miles per hour if you really want to, if you're pedaling hard. But the max supported speed on these bikes is 20 miles per hour. It's a class 2 electric bike. It's got pedal assist as well as twist throttle and an on-off button for that throttle, which I love. Now, depending on the bike color that you choose, it's gonna have either brown, or now we're gonna skip over here, black. So the black frame looks really nice with the black grips, ergonomic. We got the saddles. It's the same stuff, just a different color. So again, maybe it's like a his and hers or something, or maybe you've just got a couple friends, you want to keep them separate. Coming back to that stem, it's not super long. We've got those risers. You're just really comfortable. Only one size on this. So it's back to sort of like, you know, value and then adjusting within the components and the hardware they give you. You can kind of swivel that forward if you want to. There is a little bit of assembly required unless you live in Seattle. They do have a flagship store over in Ballard where you can come in, an experience store, right? You can try these things. What's it like if you buy this? What do you have to do if it's shipped to you?
It's very straightforward, right? Just the pedals, the handlebars, adjusting your seat height, kind of just getting kind of tuned into yourself.
Not too bad. That's pretty standard. I've reviewed a bunch of these, like, you know, online direct-to-consumer bikes. They tend to keep the price lower, and this is a company that I genuinely trust. They've been around for a lot longer. I think the original RadRover was 2015, so, you know, 2016, 17, 18, 19, like, they've been doing this for a while. They've been a leader. Everyone kind of knows that, I feel. So my goal was just to try to explain the differences year over year. Really loving these fenders. They're really solid. They don't make a lot of noise. The rack, it's just got a lot of options. It's not just a rack. It's like got these bosses and stuff, so you can add some of their big accessories. It's got the pannier hangers and stuff on the side, a little bit thicker, but then we've got the bungee loop down here. I like to call that out. It just looks nice. Everything matches, it blends in really well. It's easy to grab a hold of and lift and stuff. Taking that battery off, that's like 7.7 pounds. It's gonna reduce the weight of the bike. And then quick release on the front, not so much on the rear. In most hub motors, it's a little bit more to deal with. So having puncture resistant tires is really a big deal to me. So anyway, coming back to like kind of breaking this thing down, if you needed to carry it on the back of your car or maybe lift it into the trunk of your car, there are some good, it's just conveniences, I guess I would say. I'm gonna boot this one up real quick. And there's the shifting mechanism. So it's the 7-speed we saw a minute ago. This was another area I was asking Mike earlier. It's like, well, why not triggers? And then I realized you wouldn't be able to have that on-off throttle button if you had trigger shifters. And this actually works pretty well if you have bigger hands or you're wearing gloves and stuff because they're not as small. Got the brake levers with the rubber edge. Nice little bell. Love that. That's one of my favorite features actually of like an all-electric bike. So I'm always looking for that. And then the independent button pad that's fairly easy to reach, and otherwise a fairly large display panel. It's a king meter. It is backlit, so if I hold the up and mode button here together, there we go. You can see it turns on a little bit. Try to show you that headlight a little bit. Apparently there's like a light sensor on the back of that, so depending on what time of day, you're gonna get more or less brightness. And then that light, I mean, Spinninga is a real leader in lights, so to have both of those integrated is just wonderful. 5 ticks on that battery infographic, 20% steps. It's kind of like, you know, it could be a little finer, like 10 bars would be nice, or a percentage. We've got odometer right here and trip distance, and I'm just pressing mode to cycle through those. Speed in the middle. You can change from miles per hour to kilometers per hour by holding up and down to get into the settings menu. Pedal assist, you can go down to 0 and then it's throttle only. But keep that in mind, because if you bump this, the bike could take off on you. So I really like that you can disable that throttle. That's something it's very unique, as simple as it would seem. 5 levels of assist, so you get more power as you arrow up. There we go, and then wattage. It's a nice display just in terms of sizing, and it's fairly well protected on this bike because the bars are curved, but it's not removable. You can swivel it, and they've turned this, this is a full-size USB Type A port down here. They've made it to 1 amp, so it's not 500 milliamps. It's a little bit more power and maybe faster charging if you're putting a phone or GPS unit. That's one of the things that I've heard some complaints about with Bosch or some of the other brands where they have a little micro USB, but it's just not, it doesn't give you as much juice, so it barely maintains accessories, whereas this one seems a little bit more functional. I really like that. I feel like we've covered a lot here. We're you know, dealing with the wind and the rain and stuff, so I think we're just gonna hop on this thing and take a little ride. Hey guys, we're headed to the waterfront. I'm gonna take this up to assist level 5, just to get that motor really going. Again, it'll be quieter depending on what level you use. Plenty of power. I really like, you know, it's one of the smoother motors. Sometimes there's kind of an on-off feel with the other high power planetary geared hub motors I've tested, and I just love that on-off button for the throttle. It's a really good safety feature. Just get some riding. Go ahead, Mike. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. This is just sweet. Wow. The other thing about the fat tires is they're a little bit more stable, so you can ride this thing no hands if you need to. You know, it's usually a good idea to keep your hands on the handlebar, but you can see the bars kind of, it rises up a little bit, and the stem's not super long, so you don't have to bend forward super far. And then that front rack option is really nice because you've got that out there. It's not gonna like tip when you steer the bike. It's not gonna add weight. Those tires are already heavy enough. This is a fat bike. It's got the puncture protective lining and stuff. It's a pretty good setup. Okay guys, from here you can see this 42 tooth chain ring. It's got that nice alloy guard and guide. You can see where it's actually been bashed into something, so that's great because it protects the teeth. 12 magnet cadence sensor, higher resolution, really like that. And then the slap guard, it's good for protecting your frame, especially the black one because there's like silver aluminum underneath. And then the 11 to 34 tooth cassette, that's great. You know, only 7 sprockets, but it's lighter and it makes room for the fat hub motor. It's a good setup. They've really scrutinized this thing, and it's DNP. It freewheels really nicely. It's got a good sound, and it's got this nickel plating on it. I think that's it. I'm going to start off. I'll be in the highest level of assist here. It's 5, and you can just listen along. Okay guys, from here you can see that suspension fork, and it's got lockout, which is nice if you're just on smooth terrain. You don't need the kind of the bobbing and sometimes the dive when you really brake hard. It also has preload adjust, so if you're heavier you can preload those springs. It's a good fork, you know, it's a spring fork, so this bike is 68 pounds. It's a little heavier than most electric bikes, so part of that's because of those big tires and the puncture protection. Kind of is what it is. I like that it has a suspension fork at all, and that, you know, it's got some of those adjustments. And the 32mm stanchions, it's just a little bit heavy duty. Those fenders. Love that brake light. That was a good design. Well, I'm getting a little bit muddy and wet this time because mine doesn't have fenders, but it's a lot of fun. Man, look at these birds, and it's just so beautiful here. Is this like your most popular model at the company? Is it what's coming up?
It's our
man?
flagship and our most popular bike. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've tried to build in a lot of refinements this year, and really the bike just fits like a glove when you get on it, right? I ride a Rad wagon and a Rad City most often around the Seattle area, just for my daily commute. But when I get on this bike, it really feels like it's almost like hugging you. So
yeah,
it's a cool bike, and glad you're able to take it for a spin.
I'm all about comfort, so I really like that. You guys, I've measured like the length, width, height, weight, all that stuff back at the website. I welcome any feedback and stuff. These bikes have been out for a long time, so it's nice to hear people like chiming in if you've got one. Otherwise, ride safe, stay dry with those fenders, and we'll see you next time.